Hi guys, so I thought I'd make a little series about how to make tracks on Roblox Studio, because I've recently made a track assets pack, and I just thought this would complement it quite nicely to make a little video about it as well. So, I'm thinking about making this a 3-4 part series maybe, and obviously starting off here with making the actual track itself. So, the first part, or the first stage to making any track, is actually not in Roblox Studio at all. It's in Google Earth. I highly recommend using Google Earth Pro. It's a free download, I'll leave the download in the description. But it just gives you a higher quality version of Google Maps. So once you're at your track in Google Earth Pro or Google Earth, you'll want to zoom in as far as possible, so the barriers are all still in the image, but it's as big as possible. And then what you want to do is open Snipping Tool on your desktop, click New, and then drag it over the track. Once you've got your image, you'll want to save that as something. So you've got to right click and save as. Once you've saved your image, you can go over to the Roblox website, click on Create up here, then go to Decals, where it says Create a Decal, choose File, find where you saved it to, click Open, and then click Upload. As you can see, I've already got ones that I've tested earlier, so I don't need to make a new one. And then once you've done that, we're going to head over to Studio and make sure you're in a blank place with just the base plate, not the Roblox terrain one, just the blank base plate. Get a part in the base plate, right click on it, insert object, type special, it's going to come up with something called a special mesh, click on that. And as you can see, it looks a bit like a head. We don't want that. So what you want to see over here in the Explorer is where it says part and then mesh. Click on mesh. And down here in the properties, mesh type, set that to block or brick. Now it's in the size of a part, or shape of a part. So you'll just want to stretch that out a little bit. And now in the top, up here it says view. Click that. And then to the left, top left over here, says toolbox, click on that. Then click on these 4 boxes here. And where it says my models, click on my images. And then it should come up with your track map. Click on that. Then click on top of the part. Now the image is on the part. So now what you want to do is just get it in the right scale, right proportions I mean. Because you don't want a track that's like this, and you don't want a track that's like this. Really stretched or really tall. So you want to just get it in the right proportions. You can compare it to the original. I think that's about right. So now what you want to do is just grab one of these, grab the blue or the red one or whatever, hold shift and just drag it up and make it very big. Make it as big as you can. Okay. It's starting to stretch out a bit there. Make sure it's still a good size. I think it is. You can close out of toolbox by the way, it gives you a bigger view. So now you've done that, click on the part, click on the mesh in the Explorer, then in properties it says down here scale, and you'll just want to set that to something that you think will be reasonable. Oh, actually, we do need the toolbox again, so go and open that up, and then get a car that you can. This is for scaling, so that you build everything to the right scale. So this car here is already the size of what you'd expect a Roblox character to be. So I'm just going to use this car. Where did it go? And you want to just drag that onto the road. See if it's a reasonable. As long as you can see the road, it doesn't matter if it's low quality. If you can see the road, you're fine. So I'd say that's about quite a nice scale to use. You can drag it over here, check it on the cars in the car park to see if they're the same scale. In this case they're a bit bigger, so maybe we'll just scale it down a bit. And in road racing you do want the tracks to be slightly bigger than the cars. Or slightly bigger than they are in real life, sorry. Okay. Oh. Yep, so I quite like that scale. See it on the track. Yep, that's quite nice, because Snetterton's quite a small track, so. Okay, so let's come back over here to the start finish. You can start anywhere you want, but obviously it just makes sense to start over at the start finish. But now we're going to start building the track itself. So what you'll want to do, you might as well keep a car in here. What you want to do is put a part down. Yeah. And then you'll want to stretch it out to cover the width of the road. Make it a bit longer so you can try and get it as straight as possible in correlation to the road. You will get this texture glitch where if the texture on this mesh is close enough to the part that it will just flicker. That doesn't matter because that won't be a problem in the actual game because you'll delete this texture at the end of it. So now you've got this part, you're going to have to use now a plugin called Archimedes. I'll leave a link to this in the description so you can download it, but this is what we'll be using to build the track. Now it's going to bring up this little menu here, and it's going to have a bunch of different axes for different building style or different directions. So obviously if you want to get something going up, it's going to be that. If you want something, what's this one? On top, it's going to be Y. And then if you want something off to the side, it's Z. Obviously this is going to change however you put the brick, but just click through until you find the one that you need. In this case, it's going to be X squared. And sometimes you need to click invert axes, because sometimes it will go to the end, but that's just something that happens all the time. So now what you've done is you pretty much, this is the ghost part, so this is like showing you where you'll be putting it, like a guide. And then this is the angle in here, so at the moment this is going 30 degrees off to the left. So what you'll want to do is just change that so it lines up with this. You want to make as many or as little parts as possible if you don't want as much lag. So for a straight you can just do one part because it's going to be much easier. Now what we'll do is obviously the smaller increments, the smoother the track will be, but at the same time the more laggy it will be because there's more parts. So I'd say using a scale of 5 is quite reasonable. So what you want to do is just go around the track doing this. So once you've lined it up like this, you can click render once, scale this down, click render once again, and just keep doing this going around the entire track. Following the lines on the ground. It doesn't matter if it's off, because you can always change it. Now I'd recommend also sticking to a consistent scale, so I wouldn't start suddenly using a different angle halfway through the track, because that just makes life a lot easier when going to make stuff like the curbs or elevation or something along those lines. So here, that's turn 1 complete, and that's all you really do. You just keep going around the track. So I'll speed it up, and I'll be back soon. Okay, just quickly, but like here, if this doesn't line up, like obviously you can see that the track on the map is going off a bit to the left, and what I've built is going off a bit to the right. That is it's perfectly fine, but to fix that, all you just do obviously is just build a smaller angle. So instead of doing 5 degrees, I might do 4 degrees, and then that's much straighter along there now. Okay, so now I've finished track layout. On Archimedes you can click this red dot at the top and that'll exit out of it, or you can just click this plugin active. So that means when you click on things, it won't activate the preview thing, which can cause a lot of lag if you select a lot of stuff, so be careful. Yeah, so like here, this is a good time to demonstrate. There's also another plugin that's very useful to track making called Gap Fill. So when you have something like this, you can click on Gap Fill. It'll give you this little preview arrow thing. Click on one edge, and go to the other block. Click on the other edge, and it'll create a gap in between the bricks. This doesn't always work. Sometimes it's too awkward for it to properly work. But it doesn't create a solid part, it creates triangles, so sometimes it's a bit harder to work with, but we'll be fine here. Okay, so now you've got this done, you'll want to highlight it all. It doesn't matter if you have this selected. You're going to go to Material, Concrete, and Colour. You can choose whatever you want, but I think this suits best for tracks. And then I go a tiny bit lighter, just here. And there you go. So now you have the layout done. So that's the first part to quite a tedious process. Next part is another really simple thing. If you want to exit out of Archimedes, you can do that now. Next part is really simple. It's going to create lines. So go to plugins, and this time I'm using a plugin called SBS or Studio Build Suite. And again, I'll leave the link in the description to this. And what we'll want to do now, go to Model, highlight the entire thing. This time we need to deselect this. So just deselect that. Then what we'll want to do is actually, first thing, we'll go over here. Any parts you use the gap fill on, you cannot actually do this with that. So hold shift and drag over the parts. Make sure you don't select anything or any other parts. So any parts you use gap fill on, you cannot do this too, so make sure you deselect those. Now you have the entire track selected apart from these gap fill bits. Do Control G. and then if you want to go select that, if we go select that, then do Control D and then Control U. So what that's pretty much done, just made a whole replica of the track, so we can now go and create lines. So now what you want to do is go into Studio Build Suite on here, click Resize Object, find where the toggles are, in my case they're over here, and then we'll want to colour this white. We'll drag out, let's say, you can see in the top left over here how many it's resized by. We'll drag out by 0.9. Let's just make it one stud. We'll say okay, so we dragged out by one stud, and we'll drag the other end so it just meets up with that there. And I also recommend you put that to 0 and then just raise it by the smallest of margins, so that you avoid any texture flickering, which is when it, like this bit here, where it's just flickering the textures. So now you've done that, you want to select the track again. This time, all of these white lines are now unselected, but the track itself is still in the model. Do Control D again, and then Control U again, and then go find the toggle scale things again. And then this time we did it on the outside of this corner, so we'll do it on the inside. So set that back to 0.1. So we resized it by one stud going out, and then we dragged this out. Make it white. Set that to 0 again to drag it up. There we go. Okay, but we still have the lines over here that we need to do on the bit we use gap fill on. So what we'll do again is we'll grab gap fill, and then we'll select one of the top edge of one of these lines. We'll go over to this line and select the top edge of that line, and that should create a line for this section, and then we'll do the same over here. So now that's created lines there. And we are not done yet on the lines actually. We still need to, or on the lines you should see something like this, where they come out. That's perfectly fine. So what we'll do now is we'll just highlight a corner, or those lines in a corner. Make sure you don't highlight any of the track or the outside lines. Make sure you get only the lines on that corner. And now you've got all those lines. On Studio Build Suite, click Resize Center. Go over to these toggles, and then resize it until it matches up in the middle. Then those lines for that corner are done. And then on the outside you do the same, but instead of doing them going in, you got to drag them out slightly to get rid of these gaps. So I'll just quickly show you this, and I'll go around the track and speed it up. Okay, so now you've highlighted all the outside ones. Go over to the handles again and just drag them out slightly, so now they are flush together. Now also you'll need to sometimes fix them, because every time it goes from a corner onto a straight, they can do a bit of You don't want it to adjust this end and it not adjust the other end, so you leave that and then you just do them separately, if that makes sense. So pretty much now we've got all of our... Well, that's how you do the lines pretty much. So I'll just go around the rest of the track, do them quickly, then I'll be back. Okay then, so I have just finished in the lines. That's not a hard job, it's just kind of tedious to do because it takes such a long time. But as you can see, all the lines are now smooth and they don't have any of that issue with them. So now all I'll just do is I'll place some grass down or something and I'll drive it and see how it is.
2 hours later.
Okay, so I've tested a little bit and it seems that this is a nice scale to have the track. So I'm just gonna quickly sink it into the ground. There we go. So that's it of this whatever part series, however many I'll make. I don't know when I'm going to make the next one. Hopefully soon. All the plugins and everything are in the description. So hopefully in the next one we can make some of the curbs. Sneddon is quite a good track for that because it's got quite a big variety of curbs. So hopefully I'll get onto that. And then after that, track surroundings maybe, or whatever. But if you have any questions or anything, put them in the comments. I'll be glad to answer them. So thanks for watching. Bye.